G'day Virtual Pilots, it's Requiem. Today's debrief is a submission by one of my subscribers. Flying a P40 today is Wraith. That's who this track this is, and his wingman off to his left 9 o'clock there, that's Ace Venturi. And both of these guys are wearing virtual reality headsets, and they're working together with voice communications in this sortie. So starting off here, we'll see that they're kind of flying abeam each other, but I wouldn't really call this much of a combat spread, because right now they started out about 2.5 kilometers apart, and they're on diverging headings. So what we're going to end up seeing is the wingman on the 9 o'clock position is going to start getting further and further apart until he's about 4 kilometers away. So in combat spread, you want to think about your turn radius. So you want to stay within a distance which is going to be equal to about 1 to 2 times the turn radius compared to your wingman. So as a general rule, if you're flying combat spread, stay between about 400 meters to about 1 kilometer in a World War II fighter, and that'll work out fine. If you're any closer, it'll mean you can be attacked as a single unit, but if you start getting any further apart than that, like we see here, then it's going to be very difficult for you to be able to help your wingman effectively if he gets caught out somehow. So here you see how they've become separated a little bit, and Wraith is sort of fallen behind Ace Venturi a little bit because of those diverging headings or a difference in airspeed. So a good way for them to get back together is to use a nice landmark in order to give themselves a reference position between the two of them. So by using this fixed position, they can figure out where they each are. So Wraith can give a position report saying, he's currently orbiting over that at a given altitude, and Ace Venturi will know where he is relative to the point, so he can turn back towards him, which is what he does about now. And this way they can try and get back together to regain the visual support that they don't really have right now. Now, granted that both these guys are wearing virtual reality headsets, so it's going to be pretty hard for them to constantly maintain sight of each other, and we see Wraith sort of spots Ace as he flashes past here. So normally I would expect him to turn and follow to try and regain position so they're back into a closer combat spread, because when you find the virtual reality headset, it's going to be harder to maintain that sight, so it's very important to at least maintain a nice close distance in order to be in visual range of your wingman as much as possible. And because they were flying opposite headings, there's a high rate of closure, which means the distance between them is going to separate very quickly. So speeding up things in attack view, we can see the 3D representation of how their spacing changes. So we can see they come together here, and that's a good chance for them to rejoin in a combat spread to give themselves that support, but they end up flying opposite headings again, which can let them cover more ground trying to find a target, but they lose that support as a result. So now we'll see that they've got a large distance between them again, and just pausing it, we can see that there's a couple of 1 and 9s at the top of the screen, and they're going to become a factor pretty soon. So here we see Ace makes his turn back towards the northwest to find Ace, so they can link up again. So he starts heading back in the direction of Ace, and he has a quick look around, but he doesn't quite look up. So he ends up missing these 2 1 and 9s that are coming in. So we go back to normal speed, and so he's having his scan around, but he's not looking above him. So he doesn't quite spot the 1 and 9s until they're already descending into his field of view. So he'll be making this call out to Ace to make him aware of these two guys diving down, and then Ace can begin to react. So here we can see the 1 and 9s begin their pass to come down onto Ace, and Wraith is about 3 nautical miles away. So he's not really close enough to be in support of Ace at all, but he can at least spot those airplanes and call them out to him. So the distance between them here has kind of worked to their advantage a little bit, because the 1 and 9s haven't spotted Wraith at all because of their separation. But the trade-off is that Wraith is not in a position to help Ace immediately as they come down on top of him. So as these 1 and 9s begin their dive into Ace, Wraith will make his call out telling him where they're coming from, and Ace will need to turn slightly to end up figuring out where they are relative to him, and once he spots them, he'll make the brake turn and avoid the initial attack. Now Wraith has recognised that he can't really help Ace in a timely manner, so he elects to gain a little bit of altitude here and try and evaluate what these 1 and 9s are doing after that attack. So now with the 1 and 9 chasing Ace back towards the southeast, Wraith has a decision to make. Now after Ace has avoided the initial attack of these 1 and 9s, he ends up flying back southeast to rejoin up with Wraith, and in this position he's kind of being chased by number 2 and then number 1 in trail. So this would allow them to make a sequential attack with some distance between them. But they don't know Wraith is where he is. So Wraith has the option to either try and turn in and attack 2 before he has a chance to get to Ace, or he can use his unknown position to actually come after number 1 who's in the rear and make an attack against him before switching to number 2. So Wraith elects to not attack the lead 109 and instead uses his unknown status to attack the trail 109, which is a good option because he ends up surprising this guy here, scoring a couple of hits. Then immediately after he'll descend, begin to dive to attack the lead 109, while the previous guy he attacked will go high and try and ascertain exactly where the attack came from. So now Wraith can come down and let Ace know that he's coming in support, as well as providing a point out of where the bandit is to help Ace regain tally if he hasn't seen him. But Wraith can't stay focused on the front guy, he needs to check his 6 quickly just to see where the guy is. That'll help give him an estimate of how long he has until he comes down and is in range for an attack. So he has plenty of airspeed here, able to take some shots against the other 109 and score a few hits. Instead of turning, he ends up electing to go a little bit vertical, which could be dangerous if that other 109 was following close. But with Wraith able to maintain sight here, it wasn't as big of a danger. And since that other 109 is flying much slower, he's able to turn inside of Wraith pretty quickly and shoot at him on the way down, but he doesn't score any hits. So here we see something interesting. As number 2 is pulling in on Ace, this allows Wraith to come in and cut him off and apply some pressure and score some hits. Now we see number 1 here coming in. Now I feel that number 1 here must have either lost tally on Wraith or he had too much airspeed to be able to pull up for a shot. And Lex ends up using his extra airspeed to go vertical. And we can see here, while he's doing that, number 2 is coming down to attack on Wraith, but he ends up missing. And instead of trying to stay with Wraith, the number 2 ends up electing to sort of extend away. And if I freeze it here, we see number 1 up the top. Now number 1 was in a good position here, maybe to roll right and dive down onto Wraith if he wanted to. But they look to be flying a little bit more conservatively, and number 1 elects to sort of just forget that attack and end up coming back around to support number 2. So now Wraith checks where number 2 and number 1 are, and both Wraith and Ace elect to exit off towards the northwest. And I think there might have been either a slight miscommunication or Ace doesn't really know where Wraith is exactly. As we see Ace here elects to make a turn and he goes back towards the 2 109s with an energy disadvantage. So we end up with Wraith here continuing to extend to the northwest while Ace is headed back to the southeast. With this distance getting further and further apart, he's going to get stuck here between 2 109s by himself. So here we see as Ace and Wraith attempt to extend away to the northwest. This is about the point where Ace feels like he's about to be attacked and he begins turning in towards the 2 109s. And around here they're a mile apart, which the distance is fine if they were going to continue heading to the northwest. But with Ace turning back towards the 109s, this distance is just going to get much larger, and it's possible that Ace is going to get sandwiched between these 2 109s. But Wraith ends up seeing that both of these 109s are pointing at him, so for now they're not really aware of Ace's position, so he's able to stay underneath them and remain unseen. So as we'll see here, when Wraith looks behind him, the 2 109s are both coming down in his direction. They don't really see where Ace is. So Ace kind of spits out the back of that formation in trail, and the lead 109 is coming down and the distance is getting closer, so Wraith will have to pull back towards him while he still has enough distance to force the head-on pass. So he fires nice and early and causes the 109 to break out of the way. And from here it's a good idea for Wraith to continue flying towards Ace. This way we can get some separation between him and the 109s and allow Ace to come back towards the fight, and he'll be attacking the 109 who is just in the head-on. So in the meantime, the other 109 has performed a lead turn against Wraith and is coming down for his own attack. So we see here in the turn, the other 109 comes into view and Wraith will dodge this attack nicely. While getting ready to pull up towards the other 109, Ace will get his own attack in, but Wraith doesn't quite have the airspeed or the position to make his own attack here. So he ends up departing a little bit as he applies native G and gets the recovery in, but now he has to be careful because that other 109 is going to be coming down on him pretty quickly as well. So you can provide a point out to Ace to where that 109 is. So So as Ace flies towards the 109, it's a pretty high aspect shot, so it's not a really good one to take here, and we can see in a second just how much of a difference taking that shot has made versus if he decided to make a lead turn. So here we'll pick it up as Ace scores hits on the number 2, and Wraith is getting ready to come back downhill after departing a little bit there. So if we pause it, we can see the positions of these airplanes. BF-109 number 1 is coming down onto Wraith. So Wraith will be making the call out to Ace to tell him where he is. From here, it could be a good idea for Ace to level out his turn and fly straight and get ready to roll in behind the 109. But instead, he likes to continue his turn and pull in towards the number 1 here and take a high aspect shot. So if we pause it there, taking this kind of shot is kind of a low percentage chance at scoring anything. It's going to really put him off his game. So he could have been better off going for a lead turn instead of taking the shot, because now that he's turning after he's passed 109, he's ended up with a fair bit of separation and he's not really inside a guns range. And now that he's focused on number 1, this allows a closer distance between him and number 2 now. So number 2 can come in and attack without being seen. So as the 109 is coming down, he's going to have a high amount of airspeed, and Ace isn't really going to be able to cut him off. So Wraith is going to have to just do a few little reversals here to try and force him out in front and see if the 109 is willing to burn off any of his extra airspeed. And these guys are communicating, so he's not really willing to do that. And what we see is this 109 will pop out in front, and it's a relatively gentle turn which puts him back out in front of Wraith. So alarm bell should be ringing at this point in his mind that he's going to get dragged for another 109, and Ace actually just got shot at as well by that 109 and would have pointed that out. So that forces Wraith to turn back behind him and see the other 109 coming in, and he initiates a brake turn to defeat that attack before reversing and just starting to reevaluate the situation of which 109 he's going to go for now. So with Ace off at Wraith's left 9 o'clock, they've sorted out who their targets are next. Ace is going to be going for the guy at right 2 o'clock, and Wraith is going for the guy in front of him here. And this kind of works out well because they're each attacking the 109 that's attacking the wingman. So this 109 is focused on Ace, which allows Wraith to take an unobserved shot. So here we can see this will let us know how they've sorted out their targets. Now, because Wraith was heading straight towards the 109, he doesn't really have much turning room to use, so lead turn isn't that good of an option. So taking that shot here is probably the best option he has. So after Wraith passes close by to this 109, he would tell Ace that. This would prevent Ace from trying to attack that 109 up high. So instead he'll do a bogey gathering turn here. This way he can try and regain a tally on where that 109 is before it attacks him. So we'll see here, Wraith begins his turn back towards the fight where Ace is, and both of them come to his field of vision. And then we can see the other 109 here up top, but since he's already kind of turning at a max rate, he can't really get much more out of it, and that causes the 109 to be able to pull enough lead for a shot. So a good move here is that Ace is disengaged and he's switching to attack the 109 who came after Wraith. But here we see the importance of head position as Wraith gets a little bit offset, which ends up causing him to miss his shot against this 109. So here we can see both Wraith and Ace are under attack at the same time. And what they do here is very good. They're able to maintain situational awareness of where each other are, and then from here they'll both switch targets. This way, even though they got shot at, they can then extend and be in a position to get a free attack against each 109. However, by taking that free attack, the other 109 could be in a position to attack him, so Wraith will see that and has to get evasive to avoid the shot before extending towards Ace. And here we can see Ace has ended up defensive against this 109, so Wraith will have to make his way over and try and help him out before too much damage is done. So it's very difficult here coming over the crest trying to see where they are. Ends up spotting him, and as he comes back around to the right, that other 109 could be nearby, so he needs to check every now and again to make sure where it is. But fortunately ended up with a little bit of engine damage, so he's got an oil leak happening right now, so he's on a limited time frame as to how much help he can be. So down and slow to the ground, it's going to be hard for the other 109 to spot them against the trees, and he's going to be relying on the tracer in order to find them. So because of this, now it's become a 2 versus 1 situation here, and this 109 is pressing pretty hard against Ace, but Wraith is able to maintain a decent position and can come in for a nice attack at this point. Score some good hits in the turn. But as a result of getting tangled in this close, both Ace and Wraith get kind of fixated on this one guy, and they don't really see the other 1-9 has actually made his way back into the fight, and he will score a hit here on Wraith, which is kind of unnoticed, just because he's being so fixated on this guy in front, trying to kill him before his engine dies. So number 2 is coming down after being separated, and this has allowed number 1 to get isolated against both Wraith and Ace. So with Wraith being able to take some shots here, they both end up kind of fixated, and Ace makes a nice sweeping turn away to hopefully get an idea of where the other bandit is. And as number 2 comes in to shoot at Wraith, it kind of indicates the position, which allows Ace to kind of switch off from attacking number 1 and being in a good position to attack number 2, and this has left both Ace and Wraith offensive against each 1-9 separately. So that oil splatter is getting pretty strong now. Scores a couple more hits on that 1-9, and Wraith at this point pretty much decides to exit the fight, as he's not really going to be combat effective anymore. So it would appear that Ace is at least trying to act as a distraction for that 1-9 there shooting at him, as it looks like the other one is kind of trying to extend away. So everyone's kind of taking some damage, and even though the other 1-9 here is trying to finish off Ace, doesn't quite get there, and the 1-9s will elect to disengage and head home, as they have the advantages in order to be able to decide when they want to disengage. So P40s are kind of at the mercy of the 1-9s here, but due to the damage that everyone has sustained, it'd be a safer option for everyone involved to just leave altogether. So here you see Wraith exiting on the bottom of the screen off to the west, while Ace is still under attack. Now both of those 1-9s have suffered a decent amount of damage in both terms of, like a fuel leak and engine damage, so it's going to be a good idea for them to try and exit the fight as well, and they've got the performance in order to allow them to just disengage at will. So fast forwarding a little bit, we can see Wraith here is making his way back to the airfield. He's able to make the engine survive a little bit longer by reducing the RPM a little bit. So this way you're placing a less amount of stress on the engine, and this will allow you to extend your flight time much further than if you're trying to run with much higher performance. So doing these S-turns here will allow you to bleed off some more airspeed, also flying a longer flight path to the runway that'll let you lose more altitude and airspeed as needed. So the approach speed is fine right now. I think he cuts the power a little bit too early here. So what ends up happening is as he gets close to the ground, he's trying to rest that vertical speed a little bit by bringing it into the flare, but ends up just stalling it above the ground here. Causes a little bit of a bounce and a rotation that almost causes a wind strike, but airplane recovers good enough to be straight ahead for the landing without suffering any more major damage. So that finishes off this debrief for Wraith and Ace here. I'd like to thank them for submitting it. So it's pretty interesting to see, the fight from somebody else's perspective. So hopefully I was able to accurately interpret what they were going through at the time. And if you did happen to enjoy this, be sure to share it with your friends and become a subscriber. As always, remember to fly safe and check your 6.